And right now we're being joined by General Ishola Williams, who is retired. But before he retired from the Nigerian Army, he was the commandant of the Army Signals Commander of Training and Doctrine, known as TRADOC, and also was the Chief of Defense Training and Planning from when he left the Nigerian Army in 1993. He's also served as the chairman of the Nigerian chapter of Transparency International. General Ishola, thank you so much for joining us on Sunrise Early this morning.
I am ready for the conversation. Thank you.
Fantastic. So let us get right to it. We're looking at the corruption scorecard of Nigeria so far under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. As someone who sat on the Nigerian chapter of Transparency International, looking at our ranking, it doesn't look like we're doing too well. It doesn't look like we're doing well at all. Scoring 26 out of 100 and also coming 140th out of 180 nations ranked. We certainly haven't fared quite well in that regard. What do you think Nigeria should be looking at to make sure that we fare better in our perception around corruption in our country?
I believe that we are living in an era of what political scientists call primitive accumulation. Every Nigerian wants to become a millionaire, and whatever way you can make it, then do so. Okay? The second point is that it is not only Nigeria that is corrupt. I mean, just human beings want to make money in the capitalist system. People find a way to cheat, to be fraudulent, to do all that is possible, whether legally, illegally, legitimately, or illegitimately, to make money. But what is key and important is that when you are caught, you must be punished. But in Nigeria, there's a high level of impunity. And because of that high level of impunity, there's now what I would call pandemic corruption in Nigeria, from local government level to the national level. Okay, and with this level of pandemic corruption, it means that the law enforcement agency and the judicial system must be above board. But are they? So you have a situation in which there's impunity, and in fact, the anti-corruption index of Transparency International, to me, is completely outdated. What we should be having now is an impunity index of how all the corrupt countries in the world are dealing with the issue of punishing those who are corrupt, especially at the political level. And in many countries where they have been serious about corruption, some of them have adopted shooting people, some sent them to jail for a long time. But what's also key is that they seize all the assets that have been obtained legally and illegitimately. And people know what those assets are used for. In Nigeria, you have assets confiscated, and we are told they are sold, and that's the end of the story. What did you get out of all those assets? There was one time a committee was set up under Buhari regime, who was unfortunately not aware of anything. And that committee, at the end of the day, was disbanded, or, we never heard anything about it. And we thought that was going to be a big step in knowing what happens to the assets that have been seized. But today, everybody has been quiet. Most importantly, we have an attorney general system that's also outdated completely. South Africa has what they call public defender, not an attorney general. And that public defender is living up to his expectation as a public defender to investigate those who commit crimes against the people. They have a separate minister for constitutional affairs and so on. That is what we need to do in Nigeria if we are going to clean up system. And finally, our judiciary system, I beg them. They are not helping this country at all. They are not helping. They have increased their salary now. They've increased their allowances. We get building houses for them in Abuja. What more do they want for us to have a clean judiciary? Then we must fight corruption bottom up. And that is why we need state police. We must fight corruption bottom up. It's not happening. And that's happening. I'm not for all these excuses about state police, political interference, and so on. Who told anybody in this country that Nigerian police force is not interfered with politically? Who appointed the IGP of police? The IGP of police is not appointed by the public, it's appointed by the president. And they go to the National Assembly, which is also under the president's, agbada, and then tell me that there's no political interference. Okay, we need a state police and even local government section to fight all the criminals and crimes and things that I have from the bottom up in this country. And that's why people do not understand their responsibilities for helping the police, for helping those who are really trying to make this country clean. And they will never do that. As long as we have our policing system controlled from Abuja. Let me stop here for now.
General Williams, it's a very important conversation that you just made. You expanded a little bit, but let me bring in something current that's going on and get your thoughts on it. There's a conversation around increasing the salaries of political office holders. So the argument has always been that if you juxtapose it with the rest of the world, it's not as big as you think it is. But what are your thoughts on that? Is that something that we should even be thinking about with our current situation?
There's nothing. We have been independent now for 60 years. When Nigerians talk like that, they give me the impression that our brain is different from other people's brain in Asia and in Europe. You see, as we say in the military, when you separate a thinking man from a fighting soldier, your war will be fought by fools. Okay? The point is that the thinking men are not in a position in this country. And therefore, we are playing politics, not politics in Nigeria. That's what's happening. And therefore, that allowed people who have selfish interests, even politicians will have selfish interests, but their own have gone beyond pardon of selfish politicians, as I call them, who are running this country. Therefore, if we have thinking people really, then all this current situation they are talking about and things like that, to me, it is not true. Secondly, if you don't try something, you will not know whether it's good or not. And therefore, you cannot put whatever ideas you need to be able to correct the situation. Let me just come in very quickly here about the police and state police. You have the Nigerian police force now. You need to divide the Nigerian police force into 3 separate agencies. 1, crime, intelligence, and criminal investigation agency, commanded by a director general. 2, the mobile force was created to be a paramilitary force. And therefore, you separate them and make them a paramilitary mobile agency. National Paramilitary Agency, Commandant General. The 3rd one is the IGP. Remember, General Puratai was talking about a sort of regulatory control, standardization control for state police. The Inspector General of Police will move to the Minister of Internal Affairs and become the Inspector General of Police. And what does that mean? It will be responsible for training standards, monitoring, performance evaluation, and feedback to everybody. about what the state and local government police, what they are doing. And secondly, too, when you have a state police, your recruitment is from every ethnic group in that place. Every ethnic group in that place. And it's not from anywhere. The same thing with local government community policing. It will be people who are from that particular area. Therefore, if there is crime, they cannot blame anybody except themselves. That's how it works. So there's nothing about all this current situation. And secondly, like Burata said too correctly, we've always been talking, anytime elections are coming, there'll be violence, there'll be this. These are human beings who are doing that. And then we waste a lot of money on election security. It's a waste of money, complete waste of money. This is what can be done by civil defense. And once you have a state and quality policing, you don't need all that. And therefore, elections should be done at local government and state level independently of INEC, completely independently. That is what we call the federal system. The things that are needed for us to be able to mature as a nation, we are not doing them. We are not doing them. That's what's happening. That's what is creating all these problems. We are not doing them. And I challenge anybody to tell me which federation in this world is doing the system that we are doing. In fact, now we are defederalizing Nigeria, completely defederalizing. Okay? We are defederalizing Nigeria. The federal government wants to build motor parks. Federal government wants to create vocational schools in all local government. Federal government wants to do this, that. They've created Development Commission, River Basin Authority. What is the job of the state governor? What is his job?
Well, certainly food for thought, General. The truth is we wish we had a little more time to discuss with you because we have so much that we had lined up. For instance, you know what your own assessment is of the polity as we go into 2027. But we do apologize that we're completely out of time. We have to say that we will have to link up. We hope that you'll be generous enough to have us, you know, invade your privacy once more, whenever it is we call on you, General Williams Ishola. Thank you so much for being again.
Let me just say something about security very quickly. We can solve the security problem in 6 months. I tell you, in 6 months. So let me just leave it at that. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much, General Ishola Williams, retired as the former chairman of the Nigerian chapter of Transparency International.